Hello homeschool moms. In this video, I'm going to be talking about homeschooling year-round. This is a video that many of you have asked for. You have asked why we homeschool year-round and how that works for us. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to share with you how homeschooling year-round works for my family, what that looks like, and what benefits I see to homeschooling year-round. Now, I do not always homeschool year-round. We have done a traditional school schedule in the past as well. This is my 14th year homeschooling, and the majority of those years I've homeschooled year-round. But as I share with you, you'll see that there are some cases where, it just works better to homeschool based on a traditional school schedule and have the summer off. So first of all, let me kind of explain how homeschooling year-round works for our family. I'm going to start by telling you how we end the school year. When I am burnt out and done doing school and I feel like we've accomplished enough for that school year, it doesn't necessarily mean that we finished the curriculum, but I just feel like we've made pretty good ground here in their education for that particular year. I decide we are done with school, and that is when we end our school year. I usually have a rough idea of when I'd like to end the school year. I actually did a video on that, and so I will link that for you guys. So I usually have a rough idea of when I would like to end the school year, but there are times when we go longer because I feel like we really just need to get a few more things in, and it would be better to wrap up the year at maybe a certain point in the curriculum so that we can pick it back up the next year or whatever. So sometimes we go a little bit longer. Sometimes we're just done. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? You're just done. I'm done with homeschooling that year. I'm just ready for that year to be over and we wrap up the school year. This usually ends up being somewhere May, June, July, something like that, where we end the previous school year. Then I usually take at least 2 weeks off, sometimes 3, if not 4 weeks off, to kind of wrap up, clean up the classroom, get rid of our old schoolwork, sort through the kids' school, papers and store whatever we want to store and toss whatever we're going to toss. That's the time that usually the new curriculum is rolling in coming in the mail. And so I'm opening that up and getting things set up and figuring out the new curriculum and planning for the new school year. And so sometimes I can do that in 2 weeks and that's all we need. And we just jump back in to the new school year. Sometimes, usually I need 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks off, just to give the kids kind of a break, let them really enjoy the fact that they finished a school year. And, there's usually some fun things that we want to do as a family, maybe take a trip or whatever. But we usually just take off no more than a month before we start the new school year. And so the new school year really starts based on when we ended the last school year. If we ended the last school year in May, we might be ready to start the new school year in June sometime or the beginning of July. But if our previous school year is running all the way through July, maybe even into August sometimes, then the new school year isn't going to probably start till September. So that's just kind of how I judge when we're going to start. And like I said, we don't necessarily wait till we finish the curriculum. So sometimes the new school year is really just saying, hey, you were in 5th grade last year, now you're in 6th grade, but we are actually picking up the curriculum that we had already been using and continuing on until we finish it. And then we'll start the new curriculum maybe a month or 2 or even 3 into that new school year. So a new school year for us doesn't always mean new, fresh curriculum. Sometimes it just means I've decided it's time to move my kids up to the next grade level. They can now say that they are, no longer in 5th and now they're in 6th grade, and we're just picking up where we left off though from the previous year. So sometimes it's just saying, hey, we're done with this year. Let's take a little break. And there's just something, even if you're using the same curriculum, there's just something a little bit more exciting by saying, hey, this is a new school year, because when it's a new school year, we get new pencils, we get new markers, we get some new school supplies, the kids get new binders. And so everything just seems fresh and more exciting, even if we're using the same curriculum, just continuing on with old curriculum. So that's kind of how I decide when to end and when to start a new school year when we're schooling year round. In terms of breaks, a lot of you have asked me, well, how do you know when to take breaks and how long do you take your breaks? Well, there's a couple things. I do schedule in some breaks. We like to take at least a week off at Thanksgiving, at least 2 weeks off at Christmas. Sometimes all of December we take off. We like to take a week off over Easter. And then those are kind of the ones that are scheduled. I know that those are coming. I know that we're going to take that time off. Usually we take a family vacation in the fall because, well, it's cooler, it's cheaper, and it's less crowded. So we don't usually take our family vacations in the summer. That's one reason why we homeschool year round, is the summer is hot here and my kids don't really like to play in the heat. So why don't we just stay inside in the air conditioning and get school done? And when it's cooler in the fall, that's when we can maybe take a little bit more time off, go out and do some fun things and take some family vacations and things like that. So those things we do have scheduled in. The rest of the time is really just up in the air. If I wake up and I've got sick kids, we take the day off. I mean, it's not planned, but we take the day off. The kids aren't absent. It's not a sick day. It's just a day that we don't have school. And that's one of the benefits of homeschooling year round, is you can do that. You can just say, hey, you know what? We're getting frustrated with schoolwork. We're sick. We've got family that's coming into town. There's a neighbor who maybe is ill and we would like to be able to care for them and bring them food and make the meals. Maybe you have somebody in your church or a friend that needs rides to the doctors or whatever, and you say, you know what, I want to make this a priority instead of school this week. You can do that when you homeschool year round because you have all those extra weeks. If you're thinking, I'm starting school and then I'm just, when we get to the end of school, we're just taking a few weeks off before we pick up again, there's a lot of weeks in there that you can take off, a lot of days that you can just decide, we're not doing school today. Let's have fun. We're sick. Let's recover. There's a friend, family member in need. Let's care for them. We have family in town. Let's spend time with them and not worry about school. So that's one of the benefits of homeschooling year round. And so we do kind of I do kind of block off holidays and family vacations so that I know that those are, times that we will not be doing school. But the rest of the time, I just know that we have a certain amount of days, and I kind of figure that out by when we're starting and when I'm anticipating that we will end, and then I figure out how many weeks that we'll have off for vacations and that kind of thing, and then I know if I want to do maybe 100, I don't usually do 180 days of school. So we usually get school done in about 165, 170 days. So I subtract that out and then I know how many kind of free days we have to use. And so then we just take them when we want to take them. And that's one of the benefits of homeschooling year round, especially if you have younger kids, if you're pregnant, if you have a baby, if you got little ones that are getting sick all the time. This is a great thing to do, is homeschool year round and just take breaks when you need breaks. Another thing that you can do when you're homeschooling year round is instead of just taking random breaks, you can say, hey, we're only going to school 4 days a week and every Friday is off. And you can do that because you've got all those extra school days throughout the summer as well. And so that's something that I did early on in homeschooling. We would just say, we're going to homeschool 4 days a week, and then Friday is off. We kind of called it, a field trip day or a fun day, or maybe it was a cleaning day, but whatever. It was just a day, an extra day that we had to do stuff, and we only homeschooled 4 days of the week. Another thing that I have done when we've homeschooled year round is I have planned in what I would call breather weeks. So I planned it out that we would homeschool for 3 weeks, or maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever you want to do. And there's been different years that I've done it differently, but let's just say go with 3 weeks. So we'd say, hey, we're going to homeschool for 3 weeks, and then we're going to take a week off, and then we'll do 3 weeks and take a week off, and then 3 weeks and take a week off. The way that I decided how many weeks we would homeschool before we took a break was really based on my kids that year, maybe the previous school year. And what I mean by that is I would think back, you know how it is. There's a certain amount of time that you're excited about starting, jumping back into school. You're motivated and the kids are motivated. Maybe that's only a week. Maybe it's 2 weeks. And then you kind of get into a rhythm and you don't want to break that rhythm. Maybe that's another week or two. And then you start finding that the excitement is wearing off and the rhythm isn't really much of a rhythm anymore. And you're starting to slow down and not be really productive with school. That's where you say, okay, if that happens at 4 weeks or 5 weeks, you say, we're going to homeschool for 4 or 5 weeks. And that's about the time we lose our momentum and our rhythm. Then we're going to take a week off. And that week can be to do things that you need to catch up on. Running errands, doing fun things. Maybe you're just burnt out and you want to do fun things. Maybe you need to really invest in maybe doing some deep cleaning in your house or some organizing or whatever. But you've got that week just to breathe. And I also suggest, though, making sure that you still have some extra days for if you're sick or family comes in town or things like that. So that's kind of how we've done year-round schooling, school. It's varied. Sometimes we've done 4 days, 4-day school weeks and had Friday off. Sometimes we've schooled, 5 days a week, but for only 3 or 4 weeks and then taken a whole week off and then done maybe 4 more weeks and then a week off, 4 weeks, a week off. Or like this year where I just said, hey, this is when we're starting. This is roughly when I'd like to end. We've got these vacations and these, holidays planned out, and the rest of the time, if we'll just use those free days when we want to. If we wake up and we all decide, hey, it's a beautiful day, let's go spend all day outside. We can do that because we've got those extra days that we can make up in the summer. So those are kind of the benefits of homeschooling year-round and some of the different ways that I've done that. I did want to share with you a couple reasons why there have been some years where we have done a traditional school schedule. And so the first reason is when my kids have gotten older. When my oldest daughter was in high school, I just felt like it was better for her to follow a traditional school schedule. And actually, she followed a traditional school schedule and we continued to homeschool year-round. So that was kind of complicated because there were a few times when she wasn't able to go with us someplace, but then, on a field trip or something. But at the same time, she was older and she didn't really care about those little field trips either. But the reason why I did that for her, a traditional school schedule for a high schooler, is she was taking some classes outside of her home, some co-op classes, some classes at our local community college. Those follow a traditional school schedule. And so it just made sense that if she has some classes that she has to start in September and that are going to be over in May or June, that all of her classes just follow that. And so then she got the break in the summer just to relax. We were still doing school, and so she's like, woohoo, I don't have to do school and everybody else does. But then also during the school year, it meant that there were times when we weren't doing school, the younger siblings, and she had to. So it was a balancing act. Had to have some grace and understanding there, but it just worked better for my high schooler to follow a traditional school schedule. There were a couple years we did a traditional school schedule because frankly, I was burnt out and I needed more than 3 or 4 week break. I needed like 2, 3, 4 month break. And my kids needed that break. And so I just said, we're done with school and we're not starting for 3 or 4 months. Like, I need a big break. But that meant that the next school year, we didn't have all that time in the summer. We didn't have all those extra days of homeschooling year round. So we really had to buckle down and really attend to the books and to academics during that school year so that we could get everything in a traditional school schedule. But sometimes you need that. Like, your family just needs that. You need a break. Maybe you have got a big move coming and you just need to take a big chunk of time off of school. And so then a traditional school schedule would be better for you. And just one more thing about homeschooling year round that I have found that I really like and why I do that is when we take big chunks of time off, while it might be what I need for a sanity saver and it might be the best thing for my kids at the time, they do get bored. Like there is something to be said about just having a normal routine of getting up and doing chores and doing school and then playing. And that's just the rhythm of our life. Homeschooling has become a rhythm of our life. And so when we aren't homeschooling, sometimes my kids just get bored or they ask to homeschool because it's like something in their life is missing. And so I usually prefer to homeschool year round so that we can just always have this nice rhythm of our life. I mean, homeschooling is our lifestyle. And so it just keeps things moving. My kids don't get bored in the summer because we're homeschooling. And when we need a break, we just take a break, and usually a week or two is all we need. And then it's like, let's get back to homeschooling. Let's get back to the rhythm, because I have some kids that need routine. They need to have a routine. They thrive on routine. And so when we have the whole summer off, they're a mess. I mean, yeah, they might enjoy not doing school, but they're a mess because they need structure and routine, and summers off just don't provide that for them. So just another benefit to homeschooling year round. That's a little bit about homeschooling year round, how my family homeschools year round, and some of the benefits and drawbacks that we have seen from homeschooling through the summer. I would love to know if you homeschool year round or if you follow more of a traditional school year. Leave those in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If you have questions that you would like me to answer in upcoming videos, leave those in the comments below as well, because like this video, a lot of my videos come just from your suggestions, your comments, and your questions. So that is why I have this channel, to encourage you, to answer your questions, give you practical tips, curriculum reviews, whatever you need, I want to be there for you. So any questions you have, any videos you'd like to see in the future, leave those in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe so you'll be notified when those new videos come out, and I will see you again really soon. Bye-bye.